Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here to do. I'm here to. Join me as always, Xavier Guerreros, and on the ones and twos, Jay Nice, Juicy Johnny, Johnny Woodard, everybody. Bang, bang, pow! We're in it, guys. We're in it as we roll to the end of 2023. I can't believe it. It's so funny, dude. All I do is wait for that final 2 weeks where I don't have to do anything. It's literally all I think about.
That's your favorite time of the year?
Oh, where I just don't have to work.
It's all about family. That's what I like.
Yeah,
I
like hanging out with my family, but I also like not having to podcast. Even though I love podcasts.
But when we come back, like I'm happy to come back too.
I am
you know
too,
what I mean?
dude.
After
I'm
that 2
got
weeks.
time to get back and talk some shit. I just had some dates. I'm very excited. Los Angeles on the 12th. We're putting together 2 shows if we can do it. I'm putting together 2 murder shows for Comedy Chaos. Big blowout. Then December 16th, I have El Monte with my boy Xavier Guerrero. And then I just added 3 more shows. I'm doing my world tour of Northeast America, okay? And it's going to go Cleveland, Ohio with Eddie Bravo, Xavier Guerrero, or at least Eddie Bravo is going to be on 2 out of the 3 of this tour. Cleveland, Ohio, we're going to be there the 11th of January. Then Pottstown, we're back on the 12th of January at Soul Joel's. And then I'm going to Pittsburgh. Everyone asked me to come to Pittsburgh. Daddy's coming to Pittsburgh. Here we go. I'm going to be at Lovey Bear,
Low-Lev Bear?
Low-Lev Beer Comedy
Low-Lev
Night.
Beer,
And that's a
yeah.
Sunday night, 2 shows. Come get weird. And by
You're
the
doing Batavia again, huh?
then I'm back at my old house, Batavia, the Comedy Vault. So, yeah, and then I think it's still going. Yeah, check out chaostwins.com. That should be up going. But check it out. Support the show. If you give $1, if everyone who listens to this gave $1,
Come on, that'd be amazing.
we would be able to do multiple animations. And I think you guys will enjoy this. But the big announcement in the opening is that we are now going to start doing a live Friday show on YouTube and Rumble, or just YouTube?
Probably just YouTube for now. We might try Rumble. I'll have to check and see if the service we use has it interconnects with that. It
Okay.
might. I don't.
So we're going to be doing it live.
Live,
Yeah,
like
we're
live,
doing
live,
it live.
live.
We're doing it live.
Live
It's going to be
and
a
direct.
conspiracy call-in show where you guys call in. Am I right on that?
Well, we're gonna have a
Pre-recorded.
voicemail.
Voicemails.
You're gonna call a hotline. Yeah,
You
I should get the number. For
Yeah,
that
what is
one.
the number?
The number is
323-825-9010.
Okay, Johnny. Well, Johnny, thank you for that number. Okay, and we're going to, you call that number, you leave whatever conspiracy you want, tell us about.
keep it under like 3 minutes, 2
It's
minutes.
3
Yeah.
minutes. Anything over
We won't even press the play button. If it's too long, I'm not even going to press
2
the play
minutes
button.
is best.
Yeah.
Keep it tight. 2 minutes. Tell us your conspiracy. We'll debate it on the show.
You can be anonymous if you
We're
want.
also
as
going
well.
to do some
What time?
super chats.
What time are we live? Because you can chat with us on YouTube if you
Yeah,
want.
super chats. Holla at
What
your
time
boy.
on Friday are we thinking?
I mean, what we should do, like, it's going to be an hour, right? Maybe an hour?
Yeah, an hour.
So
yeah,
I
that.
think we should do like 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock Pacific. That'll be 5 p.m. So
Yeah.
right when
There
you're
we
driving home
go.
from work,
Yeah.
so you can't
Yeah,
chat.
you could check it out. Or should we do it later?
I don't know. What are you thinking?
No, that's fine.
Should we do it at
Yeah,
like
that'd be
7
all right.
p.m.?
Nah.
4 Pacific, 7.
fine.
That could work. Yeah.
Well, I know I can't. I have to do jujitsu at
Okay.
4:30.
Well,
So we
we'll
do
just
it
two
before
then.
that, or do it at noon.
Let's just see
Right
how it works.
before.
dude.
People
The
are
first
home.
one will be
Let's
at 2.
do it at noon.
Noon
Friday,
Pacific time.
Pacific,
on
which
Friday.
people will
Okay.
be at work, be able to tune on, put
Flying
on
by
their
the seat of our
headphones.
pants here.
Flying by the seat of our pants. So this Friday,
Yep.
at noon.
Yep.
Join us
Pacific.
on Pacific. Join us on YouTube as we do our first live show. We'll be listening to your voicemails, reading your comments, discussing everything, having a fun time. It will be a lot more loosey-goosey. It's going to be fun conspiracy time.
And also stick around after this episode, though. We do a little outro. We're going to be able to do this sometime.
Yeah, we're going to start doing some breakdowns of the episode, what we thought, and I hope you guys will love it. I hope you guys enjoy this one with Ike Baker. He came, he saw, he crushed. He gets in some Gnosticism. I know some of you guys aren't into that, but I think he's well researched, and I enjoy. This is the second time I've talked to him. He came on Zero. I thought he knocked out of the park, and I thought he knocked out of the park on this one. I think it's one of our best conversations we have ever had. So I hope you guys enjoy it. So go check out SamTripoli.com, check out my dates, and enjoy this conversation with Ike Baker.
Drink from the fountain.
All right, let's get into it. Very excited to have this guest on. He's an author, a lecturer, and a content creator. Please welcome. I'm very excited. He was on Zero, and he's back in. Ike Baker, how are you, Ike?
I'm excellent. How you doing, Sam? Thanks for having me.
No problem, Ike. Ike, is Ike your real name, or is that a pen name? Is that a name you go through? So, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I really like the name Ike, and I
like Ike. Yeah.
I like Ike, and I wouldn't mind if I had a son naming him Ike.
Just Ike or like Samuel Ike?
It's short for Isaac, right? Isn't it?
Is it?
I think it's short for something. I
Yeah.
can't remember what it is.
Well, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Ike is typically short for Isaac. As for it being my real name or not, I'll keep you guys guessing. How's
Okay, respect on that. Respect on that. So I know you were on my other show, Zero, my spiritual show, which I hope you guys go back. I'm putting out old episodes for free. You can listen to them. Everything I do with Zero is free. I don't do it as much as I used to. I wish I did. I'm just super busy, but it's a great show. It's really helped me have a great understanding of all the information that is out there, which I think is very important. Ike, I know you were on there. Can you for those who may not be familiar with you, could tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Sure. So, like you mentioned, I am an author, a lecturer. I also I'm an instructor at the Institute for Hermetic Studies, and I create presentation or documentary style videos on the Western esoteric traditions, the history, theory, and practice of it. And I host a podcast it's kind of niche. It's specifically for people that are either authors, scholars, or practitioners of the occult arts or esotericism in general. But you can find everything. The podcast, you can stream the YouTube, you can read my blog. It's all on ikebaker.com, IKEBAKER.com. I got a book coming out in 2024 via Tria Prima Press. Good friends of mine, Jamie Lamb, Pat Shanahan, and Jake Traer. And it's going to be great. I'm working on it right now. It's definitely a labor of love, and it's my first full-length solo project.
Well, the fact that you're literate enough to write a book is impressive to me. I would love to write a book, but when you can't even string, I don't even know where commas or semicolons go. I go, this seems like a nice place for a comma. I'll just throw a comma in there. Hope nobody knows that I messed up.
That's what when I first learned about commas, I just
Hey, I'm going to take a breath here, comma.
Most people who write for newspapers don't know either, so you're on safe ground.
Well, I don't want to get too deep off track, but a lot of people are like, oh man, we're losing our language. I mean, language evolves. Language evolves. I don't know. If you go back, you look at during the 1700s, how they spoke English versus today. Is one better than the other? I mean, I don't know. I mean, one seems, the old days seems like they used way too many words. They would go, if the words were money, they'd file bankruptcy today.
This is completely different, but what do you think about the theory, how they're trying to get rid of cursive so you can't read the Constitution and all that stuff? You think that's...
I think that's interesting, but it's also has to do with AI as well. AI can't read cursive, so they want to get rid of that. I'm going to lose it. If my kids don't learn cursive, I'm going to lose it.
You think it's one of the first things you're going to try to teach them?
100%. I'm like, are we teaching them cursive? Because
how's your cursive, Sam?
Mine looks every time I write, it looks like a man just had a heart attack halfway through it.
I never use it.
It is chicken scratch.
But you can use it though,
Yeah,
Johnny. You know how to connect them. It's not that
I do, but
Yeah.
it's not useful in my day to day. I would say.
Yeah, I get
Except
that.
for reading, like you said. If I ever,
I get
but
that.
when's the last time I read the original Constitution? Not too frequently.
I totally get what you're saying. But so congratulations on your new project, your new book. When will that be out?
That'll probably be sometime in the spring, 2024. So I'll be talking about it and probably making a round of podcast tours and traveling around the country talking about it.
So, what did we talk about on Zero? I forget what we talked about.
Oh, with him?
We went pretty deep.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like that show's about. And this show is going to go deep as well. I've been on a spiritual journey, got the Lord in my life. I'm a Jesus guy. But where do you want to start? What would you like to start with?
I guess on that tack, man, I guess we could start with maybe a little bit of Christianity because I, like yourself, I'm a Jesus man.
Bang!
I would not say that I am strictly like large or small O Orthodox Christian. I was born and raised a Catholic, but I kind of rediscovered my Christian faith over the last maybe 15 years or so. Really, I came back to it. I'm 37 now, but it was kind of a slow, I guess, really understanding it, like seeing something so mundane and that had been such a huge presence in my life growing up that I kind of took for granted. I see it with new eyes, kind of almost for the first time. And it's been a really beautiful journey, but I understand it from a little bit more of an esoteric perspective, a little bit more of a Christian mystical perspective.
So that is my big thing. And I love my people who listen. I don't believe they're fans. I believe they're like-minded people that listen to this show, and we're very blessed. And the show keeps growing, and we're very blessed. Okay. And whenever I do live shows, I'll always have somebody being like, there's only Jesus. There's no mysticism. And I understand what you're saying, but I also, I just think there's just more to it. And then I mean, maybe I'm early on my journey. I've had these conversations. I've had conversations on the show, and then 6 months later, thought a whole different. I was writing a book with Mark Steves, and I'm like, I stopped it because I'm like, I don't know if I'll believe what I'm saying right here in 6 months, and I would hate to put it out and then suddenly be like, I don't believe any of it. Don't buy the book, So, like, it's really hard for me to put anything down about what my beliefs are. But like, there are certain things that I believe, which is energy manipulation, that I think is like valid. And so again, I'm on a spiritual journey. I'm trying to learn, and I hope that doesn't offend you if you're listening, but this is my journey. And maybe at the end I will sit down and be in the same place with a lot of you that think there's only one thing. What are your thoughts about Christian mystics?
Well, so Christian mystics have existed within, or I guess under the auspices of Christianity since its very, very beginning. So, Hildegard von Bingen, Jacob, some people call him Jacob Bohm. I think a closer, true pronunciation would be Jakob Böhme. These were all, theologians and clergy people. There's a long list of them that had mystical experiences of the Christ, the Christic force that exists, that Jesus was an embodiment of, and I think that the path that Christ walked, whether you're reading the canonical gospels or whether you're reading the apocryphal ones, or if you're reading things like the Gnostic gospels, right? Quote unquote Gnostic gospels. That's probably a little bit more my flavor. Because it really dovetails with Western occultism and Western esotericism that I've been studying. That was actually the path that brought me back to Christianity, was Western esoteric traditions. And you see it from the very, very beginning, the earliest sects of Christianity, right? Because there wasn't one overarching Christian church. They didn't believe one thing. They never have. There's always, from the very beginning, from the earliest records, there's arguments over the nature of Christ. Was it an allegory? Was it a spiritual kind of blueprint for like the reintegration of humankind? Was it a literal interpretation? And you end up having this, what they call orthodox, right? Or I guess you could translate that from the ancient Greek to mean right opinion. But
that is what orthodox means.
Yeah, kind of. It also means like, it can mean like moving in agreement, or like really right opinion is how it gets translated in a lot of the modern literature. But the thing is that you have that school that belongs to these people that are the quote unquote church fathers, the patriarchs of modern institutionalized Christianity, people like Irenaeus of Lyon, you have Hippolytus, you have Tertullian, you have Origen, Clement of Alexandria. These are all people that were very, very influential in the beginning of the church. And then you have other people that are Gnostics, like Valentinus, who almost became Bishop of Rome. And Bishop of Rome, right? What do the Catholics call that? They call that the Pope. So he almost had that job, and that's how influential he was. And he was a Gnostic. And the Gnostics are much, much more mystical. They say that salvation is not brought by faith. Salvation is brought by gnosis, which in Greek means knowledge, but it denotes an experiential knowledge or a mystical spiritual knowledge. And so there's not much written about specific Gnostic experiences, but there are Gnostic texts that were essentially found in the 1940s, I believe 1945, just outside of Alexandria, Egypt, which is a very, very important place for the beginning of Christianity. And we kind of learned that, like, oh, they were having these mystical experiences and this really, really interesting and diverse perspective on the nature of Christianity and the Christ, because before we found those documents, all like scholastic or theological consideration of the Gnostics was through the people who hated them. So it's like if somebody who does not like you, Sam, wrote your biography, you know, and that's what people have left, it's going to contain probably a very skewed picture of your life. And that's what we had for a really long time until 1945. And it's only very recently, I would say within the last like 40, 50 years, that scholars have really started looking at these things critically. And beyond a shadow of a doubt, they're highly mystical. So Christian mysticism has been with us since the beginning.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our man, James McMahon, and Copy My Crypto. Guys, listen, we've seen so many people making ridiculous money from crypto. But did you know you could do the same? The Copy My Crypto membership site shows you the coins that YouTuber James McMahon personally holds and allows you to copy them. It's like having a big brother who knows what he's doing. You don't need to know a thing about crypto or how to invest, as you simply do what he does. So let me tell you more about James. He runs Crypto with James YouTube channel, which despite heavy censorship has over 26,000 subscribers. Since March 2020, he's told his viewers to buy 26 crypto coins. Had you put $100 in each of those coins, it went up to be worth $123,000. Of the 26 coins, his top pick of the year, a coin called Phantom, went up 692 times from when he said. That one call alone retired a number of people, including guys in their 20s and 30s. Remember, this is public knowledge. You can go to YouTube and verify this yourself. So if you'd like to join the 2,800 members who copy James, then stop what you're doing and head right over to copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's TFH. You'll not only find proof of everything I said, but my listeners get full access for just $1. Once again, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. The recession is here, guys. You can suffer like everyone else or choose to thrive. James is the real deal. Go visit the site now. So I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick. And not that I believe this wholeheartedly, but I believe there has been manipulation of almost every religion. Every one of them. There's been a manipulation of it. And
what do you mean by that? Like what type of manipulation?
Well, whether they've introduced books that bring the religion in a certain other direction, like it's heading this way, this book kind of brings it this way. Connections to elites that people are within the religion itself. And that's all of them. That's not just Christianity, that's Islam, that's Judaism, that's all of them. So what I want to ask you is the biggest, because I already know once we start having this conversation, there's going to be a small group of people, and it won't be a large group of people, because the blessings of this at the Swarm, they'll listen. And like when it comes to our comedy shows I do, I always say my fans are comedy lovers, not comedy snobs. So whatever you believe, they want you to be do really well at it, and they'll laugh at it. They're not like, I only want this, like snobs do, and they mean mug you if you don't give them what they deem as popular or the correct way to do comedy. I think that is, for the most part, the people who listen to the show. They're open-minded. Everyone's looking for another piece of the puzzle. Do you have a piece of the puzzle? So people will talk on this show and they'll be like, a lot of this Gnosticism gets introduced as a way to kind of morph Christianity into another direction and in a different way. And then, they find it in 1940s and, it's I don't know. They could even use words like Luciferianism and stuff like that. Like, what do you? And this is just an honest question, not like trying to challenge anybody, but a real honest question to what do you say to those people that go, all that stuff is just trying to like manipulate your connection with God?
Well, I typically don't say anything to them because, as the saying goes, to the disbeliever, no proof is sufficient. But what I will say is this. Among the real, because I'm kind of like you, right? My views change on things, and I'm aware that that's happening. But they don't change as I tighten my scope of my abilities of research, right? Because a lot of it relies upon context, right? You can have something. You can have a line from the Bible, like Lucifer, right? No context. You have no idea what it means. So I think that really it's not so much the books, right? Because you can't really forge new books and then have a scholastic community which really doesn't give a shit on the veracity of it. They're not looking at scripture from the point of like, was Jesus real? They're looking at it more like, no, we don't care if any of this stuff was real. We're looking at it from a secular academic point of view. So they're not going to entertain this idea that like they know it's not only radiocarbon dating, it's the location, it's the type of writing, it's the analysis of the ink. Stuff doesn't get made the same way anymore. You know what I'm saying? We don't make things on papyrus like that. There could be even species of plant that they use that have, evolved and don't exist in the same format anymore. So they do a heavy amount of research, because the thing is, everybody wants to be that scholar that finds, the lost thing, but you got to be able to prove it. And there's lots of checks and balances there. Now, that's not to say I'm not the biggest fan. Anybody who's watched my channel, I'm not the biggest fan of academia. I appreciate it for what it can and should do, but it does overstep its bounds a lot of the time in trying to tell us, rather than the ethos of viewing scripture critically, which I think is important from a perspective, they will condescend that none of it should be believed at all, or that it should be completely rationalized into some form of, pre-modern psychology, which I don't believe. And the thing is, if you're going to manipulate then the text, what I have seen is it's in the translation. We have texts that are right. So the Hebrew Bible, which comprises the Old Testament, the first section of the Bible, right? That's all the thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that. I am a jealous and vengeful God. That's the Old Testament. That's the Hebrew Bible. The New Testament, I believe, takes place 400 years after the last book of the Bible. That's sort of, they call it gospel. Gospel means the good news. It's the New Testament. This is the new law that has been delivered. And so the Hebrew Bible is written in Hebrew, but like ancient Hebrew, which is very, very different. And the New Testament is written in Koine and Attic Greek, an ancient form of Greek that's not spoken anymore. So these two things get translated. The Old Testament gets translated into Greek, becomes the Septuagint. The Septuagint then gets translated into two different forms of Latin, the most common being the Vulgate. You take the book of Isaiah, the prophet. That's an Old Testament Hebrew book, right? Isaiah was a prophet. It's from Isaiah 14 that you get this whole Lucifer thing. And the Greek that it was translated into before the Latin says eos phoros to proi, which means like dawn light of the morning. That gets translated in Latin to Lucifer or Lucifer, which means light bearer. If you read the passage from top to bottom, unequivocally, in any language, you see that the prophet is talking about a king of Babylon. The dawn star of the morning is a title for a king that he's currently like shit talking in this whole passage. Later in time, right, that gets translated, that gets Augustine of Hippo, St. Augustine. You have a bunch of saints, in the late antique period, middle ages and Renaissance onward. They start referring to Lucifer as synonymous with the devil, because in this passage in Isaiah, it talks about how, well, you strove for the highest and you fell. But also in one of the Gospels of Peter, I think it's 2 Peter, Lucifer is a term that Peter uses to refer to Jesus in the Latin Vulgate. So if you're going to screw around with anything, it's in the etymology, it's in the translations. Now, we don't need to really look at the new Gnostic gospel. Yeah, we found them in 1945. I'm sure they were in somebody's private collection. I don't think we actually dug them up. I'm sure some old rich dude or family had them in a bookcase somewhere that they took out when they got drunk on their birthday or to show their friends. But what we have there are genuine documents that aren't only Gnostic. Some of them are Hermetic. And not only that, but that's not our first reference to Gnosticism. Gnosticism doesn't get introduced at any point. Gnosticism is there from the beginning. The earliest church fathers are talking about the Gnostics, except they're saying, screw them. We want our version of Christianity to be the, Catholicos. Catholic means it's a Greek word for universal. They claimed they had the universal Christianity.
Such dangerous conversations. I just find it so interesting, and I hope you guys enjoy that because I think it's interesting. So do you think Lucifer was a fallen angel?
No, I don't. I think personally that there are issues of translation that hysteria will make you run away with this shit. Satan is not a fallen angel in the Hebrew Bible. Satan is something kind of like I don't want to say court adjudicator. He's almost like a prosecutor in like the court of El, right? Like God is like the judge and Satan, Shaitan, he is the adversary or the accuser. He's the prosecutor. He's the tempter. That's how Satan is portrayed in the Old Testament. It's not until the book of Revelation, right? Written years after Christ's, the Christ event ends or really capitulates with the death and resurrection of Christ. St. John the Divine is in a cave on the Greek island of Patmos, and he writes this insane, surreal kind of tract about the end of the world, and we call it Revelation, right? Because revelation means to be revealed. It was revealed to me. He starts the book off by saying, when he starts describing his thing, he says, I was in the spirit when? So he was in an altered state of consciousness when he received this stuff. And it's all this crazy stuff, and it's really from that book, which is the last book of the Bible, that it talks about Satan being a fallen angel. So if the book of Isaiah was written hundreds of years before we even thought of Satan as a fallen angel, which happens in the book of Revelation, then you're dating things anachronistically. And so I am a believer. I'm not somebody I don't have to rationalize stuff. I know there is shit that I am not going to know while I am in a body, and that's okay. There is another type of knowledge that you have that transcends the intellectual. It transcends the rational. That's the knowledge of the heart. That's gnosis. That is the spiritual experience that you will never be able to explain to anybody. But when it comes to dealing with occultism and Christianity and spiritual mysteries, you have to get right what you can. Otherwise, we're going to keep going off into left field. There was a huge movement in the 1800s with people like Helena Blavatsky. They had, the Theosophical Society, for anyone who's familiar with them, they had a magazine called Lucifer Magazine, and they thought he was the hero, the light bearer. You know what I'm saying? And that, to them, they didn't associate Satan with Lucifer. So it's to me, I feel like the internet is a really, really great way for people to communicate, and you and I can have this conversation right now. But there's something really strange about something that's so broad, yet somehow super specific messages just get driven home. They get pounded through. There's in the public dialogue on a technology like this, there's still such little nuance. There's such little. It's almost like people want to get carried away with this shit.
So I believe that the battle of this realm is between fallen angels and God. Am I off?
I agree with you on that. Absolutely. I would say this, and this is opening a whole other can of worms.
Well, I'm all about cans of worms. This is the show to do the cans of worms. But, for me, and then I want to hear your theory that is the can of worms. But for me, so much of this is all these pagan gods are either fallen angels or Nephilims.
Yeah. I would say that. So actually, what you're talking about is spot on with essentially ancient Greek Neoplatonism. So even some of the most sophisticated philosophers of ancient Hellenistic Greece would agree with you. They called them the archons, and these are essentially planetary rulers, right? Each planet has this it's the physical body, the same way I have a soul, which is kind of like my archetype. It's it's not necessarily the me behind my eyes, but it animates me. It's this kind of, Ike principle. They would say that the archons, the physical body of the archons were one of the planets, right? And that's their physical body, but they have a soul, they have an archetype, a whole hierarchy of intelligence. And that corresponds to the ancient gods. Absolutely. Even in ancient Sumer and Mesopotamia, they believed that when you looked at those planets, that's that god's body. And yeah, absolutely. But here's the can of worms. The can of worms, and this we get from Gnosticism, is the fact that, embrace yourself, especially Bible thumping Christians. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get spanked in the comment section.
God have mercy on your soul in the comment section.
there are two gods.
Whoa.
Fuck.
One is the absolute. That is the transcendent God from which everything comes, spiritual and material. And it's a unity. And this was conceptualized very, very early on in ancient Egyptian cosmology. They symbolized it by Atum, and that got carried over into the Greek Neoplatonic traditions. And they conceptualized it as Tohen, the one. You couldn't really say anything about it because it's everything in latent potential. And so that, the absolute, Plato actually refers to it kind of, there's this kind of disagreement, but he refers to it as the good, to agathon. Now, you get the Hebrew Bible, and in the Gnostic sects of Valentinianism, Basilidianism, and particularly Sethianism, all related, right, to this Neoplatonic Hermetic tradition. So what I was saying earlier about Alexandria, the city in Europe being so important, all this stuff was coming together. It was in this philosophical, religious stew, this beautiful point in history that we really don't often get taught about. Hellenistic Egypt, all of this stuff flourished there, started there, moved outward into the world from there. And it's really there that a lot of people think Christianity came directly out of Judaism. If anything, Christianity came out of Hellenized Judaism, the Judaism of ancient Egypt after the conquests of Alexander the Great around 33 BCE and for several hundred years onward. But you have those Gnostic sects talking about how could the God of the Old Testament, I am a vengeful God, right? You shall worship no other gods before me. The God that says in one of the Psalms, I think it's Psalm 68, you shall dip the tongue of your dogs in the blood of thine enemies.
Oh my!
Right? How could that be the same author as the all-loving, all-knowing, all-forgiving God that Christ constantly talks about? And so that's kind of this whole idea behind the revelation of Christ, is that he comes to bring the good news. It's the new law, and reorient us. And so they essentially, the Gnostics basically say in a lot of their texts, and for anybody that wants to read those texts, there are a few PDF formats that are free. Otherwise, you can buy good translations. It's called The Reality of the Rulers, or The Hypostases of the Archons in the Greek, and the Secret Book of John. Okay, that's an apocryphal book. And they basically talk about how the God of the Hebrew Bible, they call him the Demiurge.
Whoa, you went
lower.
there, Demiurge. What's
It's
it called?
lower.
The Secret What of John?
The Secret Book of John and The Reality of the Rulers. If you read those two together, I mean, there's some pretty controversial, shocking stuff in there for as early as it was written. But it just blows the doors off, man. And then there's this whole tradition that continues through time in the occult world, trying to preserve this Gnostic knowledge and help humanity remember that, like, look at what happened to Christianity, right? We followed all those thou shalt nots and all the Old Testament rules. And we basically threw away as an institution the forgiveness and love of Christ. And look what happened. I mean, it's a dominion of evil.
That's so crazy.
Is it possible that the New Testament is for a different human, almost? Like that people have evolved and that God dealt with a different state of human existence. The Old Testament God.
I think personally, the thing is that I don't want to get too like bogged down in like all the semantics and I guess historical stuff. But what I want to say, I guess what I want to communicate is that from my reading of everything, they're two wildly different beings. In that one kind of belongs to a Sumerian pantheon, right? Abraham, really the first Jew, right? He came out of Sumer. He was a Sumerian. Him and his wife, Sarai, and Lot, his nephew, and Lot's wife, they're told you go out into the desert, you leave Ur, the city, and I will make you the father of nations. I have this promised land for you. It's contractual. There's an agreement being bartered. And, there's Yahweh, there's El, and these are gods, storm gods and things like that from the Sumerian pantheon. Whereas, the God Christ talks about it's more abstract. It's loving, so there's this kind of fatherly benevolence to it, at least for that time period. But it's just not concerned with laws of retribution. As a matter of fact, you can see it in the things that are being asked of the people. So El and Yahweh, in this kind of like pact that they make with one another, and many names, Adonai, Shaddai, El Chai, all these things, these different Hebrew names for this God or aspects of this God. It's a contractual basis. He basically says, listen, this is what you got to do. You got to get circumcised. You got to, there are certain laws for eating and things like that. You have to go to this place, and then I'll give you X, Y, and Z. And it's almost always of a material nature, whether that's riches or whether that's a kingdom, a kingship, or whether that's land itself, or whether that's, prominence. Whereas the message of the Christ is a message of abnegation of the world. He asks us to walk away from this world, to walk away from contractual agreements of the material, right? What does Christ say? He says, you cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve God and money. And the interesting thing is, in the King James, they never translated that word. They kept it as the Greek mammonas. Who knows why, right? Maybe because they don't want the populace saying, you know what, Christ says I'm absolved of all my debts. But he asks us to turn away from all of that. So I don't necessarily see it. I don't necessarily see it as being like an evolution of one God's dispensation, so much as I see it as a human being who learned the truth about the ultimate reality, and then allowed, by giving up his ego, his persona, because that's what you have to do, right? To say goodbye to the world. You have to suffer what we call the philosophic death. He gave up his ego and his persona and allowed, the highest conception of spirituality that is available for human beings to be embodied in him. Because it's really interesting. The Basilidians, they don't celebrate the birth of Jesus around the winter solstice the way the rest of the traditions did. They celebrated it traditionally in the spring around the time when he was baptized in the River Jordan. And that's because that's when Jesus, the man, became the Christ. Christos means anointed, right? But also anointed has the connotation of oil. And they would anoint kings and priests. Yes, he's high priest. Yes, he's king. But what a lot of people don't realize is this is in an age before soap, and it was by oil that people cleaned themselves. Wow. And so the term of anointment is a purification by oil and by water at the hands of John the Baptist. And it's at that point when he kneels in the River Jordan for baptism and it says this in canonical gospels, the dove of the Holy Spirit descended upon him. The skies opened up, and God said, behold, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. And it's from that day forth that the Christ is born on earth.
That is crazy, man. I'm all about that. I love this.
We should really get together on Sundays, huh? And just do a little.
Well, Sundays.
Little
I don't even know if that's the day that is.
But yeah, I mean, you know what I mean. I'm just saying, like, we should have a little Bible study or something.
I'll church it up. He can't show up. He'll be hungover.
A little Bible study. I'd do that.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our friends at Mood and their new product, THCA flower. Let me tell you about Mood. Mood is known for their federally legal THC, but now they're adding their most potent product yet to their lineup. Introducing hemp-based THCA flower, the future of legal THC. Try along with all Mood's other amazing offering like Delta 8 flower, gummies, vape cartridges, and more. And for a limited time, Mood is giving our listeners a free gram of THCA flower and 20% off your first order. Just visit hellomood.com hellomood.com and use the code tinfoil. That's hellomood.com and use the code tinfoil. Hey, Xavier, you've tried mood. Tell us about your thoughts on mood.
Yeah, my favorite thing are the THC rocks. Those go perfect in a bowl. And then if you're trying to roll up a joint, I'd go with some orange glaze. It's perfect. And then they have pre-rolls as well, so you can't go wrong with anything on that website.
So, if Xavier likes it, we all are going to love it. That's right. So we want you to try Mood's new THCA flower today. And for 20% off your first order and a free gram of THCA flower, go to hellomood.com and use the promo code tinfoil. That's hellomood.com, promo code tinfoil for 20% off your order and a free gram of THC flower. Enjoy it.
We were talking about church and stuff, and every Mexican tries to take their kids to church in the beginning.
Yeah.
And we end it's too much for the parents, too much yelling. Are you taking your kids to church? Is the Bible in the works?
That's a great question.
It might be too soon, yeah, because
For me, I am not into organized religion. I'm just not. I mean, I am into spirituality. I'm into me exploring God. I don't have a problem with people who go to church. I mean, I it's community, it's connection to the past. It's all that things that I think are very important for community, But for me, it's just like I want to find my connection with God in a way, and then I want to teach my daughters about it as they grow up. That's my goal. I have a much different view of God than my father.
Yeah, because I
think something happened to my dad with the Catholic Church. May not have been good.
And I think a lot of parents are kind of like you, where they're spiritual, but they're not religious, and they don't know how to go about it other than take you to the church.
I think
because my parents just took me to church, and that made me not want it. Instead of them just telling me like, "Hey, I believe in God." Some people go to church, and then you end up hating it because it's church.
Yeah, I mean, my mom brought me to church 3 times, and then never more. And I had always believed in God. There was never a time I didn't believe in God, but I fell for the psyops that modern culture was doing with me and showing and making me believe that the actions of man was that of God. And now I realize that they position people on purpose.
What do you mean by that, Sam?
Well, I mean, if we know, Johnny, and we talked about this in the last episode, that they can corrupt almost every level of politics, why can't they do that with religion? Why can't they corrupt?
I thought you meant
So I almost got molested by Father Dan. I do a joke about it. Why it didn't happen, because I'm a grower, not a shower. That's what my belief is. And Father Dan, when it was found out that he was doing what he was doing, they moved him somewhere else. They didn't kick him out. They just moved him somewhere else. And you find that over and over and over again. And you go to the point going, why are you doing that? How is that God? And I just think that there is a power structure from the top, and this is not everybody or all the time. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are good with God and are good God folk. And I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about these stories that riddle the news all the time. That I mean, we hear about it on almost every religion except for 1 or 2, and what that represents. But we hear it all the time, and I go, why is that happening? Well, again, I think it's all a demoralization campaign to get you to disconnect from God, and they want you to worship the state, and we see that in communism. We see that, and that's why China is in deep shit right now. I mean, people, my daughter's autistic, but I do a joke about everybody in China being autistic, and people think I'm joking, but I mean, there's a reason why they steal all of our ideas, because they killed off all the creative people. They literally had 100 days of, yeah, man, tell us what you think about us. Hey, man, don't even worry about it. That's going to happen. Say whatever you want in the middle of the square where everyone can see you. Yell as loud as you can. And then 100 days done, and they wiped all those motherfuckers out. And with that, they took out all. It's like, why are all the French like super feminine? Because Napoleon got all their fucking alphas killed. You know? It's
so
like
true,
these things are done on purpose. So for me, it's just like, again, I don't have a problem with God, and I can understand because when you're a kid, you're forced to do things that maybe you don't want to do because you're not ready for it. It's like everybody comes to God when they're ready for it. Like I was saying on the last episode, I have a buddy of mine, super like atheist, now has God. And it's like,
Do you think with age? You think when you're young, you're atheist, you're like, I'm not going to die? Because, I mean, that's what's a little thing. You're young, and that's what the media tells you.
Well, you're also like, there's also that a lot of, like, you don't listen to people as much as you get older. Like you do, like there's a reason why marketers like, 16 to 35 or 44, right? I think the number, I remember when I passed out of it, I'm like, oh, I'm no longer relevant. Why do they like that? Because my views of the world and my consuming habits are set. They can't change me from that. But these younger people, they can manipulate through shiny object people. Like, do you ever watch like iPhones? Like, have you ever watched a show where they that they're marketing to black people? It's always dancing. I don't know what it is, but they're always like, oh my God, the McRib is back. And then it's just like, they're just and you're like, it's so.
It tells you what they think of people, though, right? They just boil you down to like.
They just think you're like, it's so ridiculous. It's borderline offensive.
Yeah,
but that's what they do. Like or if you'll watch, let's say 90 Day Fiance, they'll have a version of the commercial, and then when you watch Monday Night Football, they do that commercial, but now everybody's black, and because you're like, what do you like? Everything is mental manipulation because they're manipulating you at this point. Everything is.
And I think kids, right, especially kids aren't like truth seekers. They're not generally not hungry for the existential spiritual truths. They want to be cool.
Yeah,
please God, do anything you want to me, but just make me cool. I mean, it's kind of they say what you want about education, but at the end of the day, since the advent of institutionalized mandatory education systems, you're ripping the kid out of the home, right? The traditional, that's the nucleus of tradition and of structure and feeling like a familial belonging, taking that kid out of there 5 days a week for like 6 to 8 hours a day. And you're putting them in basically, I mean, like, I feel like my middle school and high school were like, I felt like an inmate, I felt like I was in jail.
It's set up like that. It's set up.
Oh yeah. You get your time in the yard, every day, a little time in the yard. You have a prescribed time to eat. You have to ask permission to go relieve yourself.
Yeah.
And if they're doing something important, you don't get to go. You don't get a pass to
but
go to the bathroom.
Also, I know, like, because my parents are both teachers. When they go the opposite of that, we go, "What are these teachers doing?"
What do you mean?
When you're like, "Oh, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to ask for permission. You can go do whatever you want." We're like, that's not how society works."
No, there's a nuance. There's just. But
no, you're right.
The government
you're right.
leaves no room for nuance.
No, I'm with you on that. I don't think kids search for the truth. I think they search for interesting and cool.
Yeah.
And that's why all that stuff.
Because nothing's more devastating, like he said, for a kid than not fitting in.
So when I was very young, I went with my father to Las Vegas. We were very, very young. I think I was 18 years old, or I just had gone to college. He was out visiting me.
Oh, that's fun.
And they had Miss Nude America was going on at like the Sands, right? And I my dad wanted to go and I wanted to go. We were both knuckle dragging scumbags, right? But this will let you know how they. So we go there, we sit there. It's a giant strip bar. It's like a giant strip bar in this giant casino, and they're like trying to name Miss Nude America, right? So the girls would walk around to meet all the guys, and I noticed that they were all just coming to me. And I go, why is that? And they know that my dad's age. They know the game. They know they're not going home with a chick, and they just want your money. So they're like, I'm not even going to bother with that old guy who knows what I'm doing here. I'm going to go with this young dude who's impressionable, young, dumb, and I'm just going to try to extract wealth from him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening. So when we look at what they're doing with, think about what, and again, I defend teachers because I don't think all teachers are Marxist. I think a lot of them are just working within the system, and there's some crazies within there, right? But when you look at these like crazy counties, like where San Francisco is and Oregon, and they have you have this like, oh, we don't have to tell the parents. That's done on purpose. Because kids are impressionable and they want to stand out, and they think this. If I'm a boy and I show up as a girl, people are going to talk about how cool I look. But at my parents, like if my daughter, I'd be like, you're not doing anything till you're 18. If you're 18, you want to do some stuff, then we'll have a conversation. But it ain't happening.
Especially if you already don't fit in, and that, you know, there's no other. You know what I mean? You're just grasping for anything.
Yeah, you're just trying to find a way to be the cool kids. It's kind of like when I'd walk around with this old girlfriend I had back in the day, and she saw a psychic. And the psychic course waves her in, and she comes into the psychic. But the psychic goes, he has to leave. Because they know I'm going to call them out on their bullshit because she's going to believe in fucking fairy tales, right? They know if a guy's there going,
so funny,
what? Yeah. Come on. You're talking out your ass, right? They get rid of the guy, and then they can emotionally manipulate the woman. I love this talk about, I am so like into spirituality. It is like taking over my life. And it is what I believe in. And I can we ever really truly get to the bottom of the truth of our history and our connection with God? Do you think we can ever get to that? Because there's been so long, there's so much influence and all that stuff. Can you get to the center of this Tootsie Pop?
The thing is, like, right, so that's kind of why I take the whole Gnostic tack, because they weren't trying to sell you some list of beliefs. They were trying to explain a system that led you to your own spiritual experience. And that's why Gnostic or Gnosis is such a hairy term for academics, because there's virtually nothing written about the experience down other than, you know, it was spiritual knowledge, and everybody's was somewhat different. And I think that, you know, that to me is much more in line with the reality of things. When I was going to church and I was taking communion and praying and stuff, it was a good, it fulfilled, it like scratched an itch. I think that was very human in me, but none of the magic was there, literally and figuratively. It was just kind of this humdrum thing. I went in and there was a feeling of calmness and piety. But it was when I really started investigating these paths to having my own spiritual experience, that's when things started to get real. And I started to have experiences, you know, that defy words and are very, very intimate and personal. And like I was saying earlier, right, there's a level of knowledge that is discursive, it's intellectual, but that should only be a scaffolding, right? That's not the end. That's the means, hopefully, right? Because nowadays, like you're saying, to your point, Sam, I agree 110,000% with you, and I felt that way since I was 14 years old, which led me down this path of questioning. There is definitely a spiritual war going on, and it's been. It hasn't been much of a war for the past couple hundred, you know, or past few centuries, because we were just now becoming aware of it. They were whipping our asses, you know, and now I guess we're at a point where we're kind of maturing beyond a spiritual infancy. And I don't want to use the term waking up. I don't like that term, but we are becoming a little bit more aware. And so now it's becoming much more heavy-handed. But you know, having those spiritual experiences really blew the doors open for me. And it's all there. You know, they're not going to tell you what to experience or what's going to happen or what you need to believe, but there are methods of getting there, or at least the preservation, right, throughout time and throughout, you know, groups of people who learn this stuff and practice it. The preservation of that alternative Because to kind of cap off my point there is that there's an intellectual knowledge, but there's that gnosis, spiritual experience, and that's closer to like capital T truth. We can talk about it all day, but in a sense, like every word I speak is a tiny coffin for like the reality of the situation.
I love that. That's great.
So I can tell you've obviously read a couple books, and we just
Okay.
and our last guest was talking about the Mandela effect and how he thinks they're changing the Bible. Have you noticed any verses change? Have you not found a verse in the Bible that you've gone down?
Why are some of the books allowed into the Bible? Why were other ones not? This gets into the manipulation that we're talking about. Why are some, you go back to old, you find books for the 16, 1700s. They have passages that are no longer in the Bible, word manipulation, stuff like that. What are your thoughts?
I've seen certain things in newer printings of, I believe, the King James. I think it's in some of the Psalms. I couldn't really tell you exactly which ones, but they're taking out prayer as a means to combat demonic possession and spiritual, I guess, like you're saying, that kind of like adversarial spiritual warfare. One of the things that exorcists are constantly talking about, or at least, really, I guess, seasoned ones, when you talk with some of them, I don't know when you would do that, but I have. And a couple of the things that are really interesting are that they recommend prayer, but they also recommend the Psalms chanted like daily. Just have it playing if you're struggling with dark forces, things like addiction and stuff, and or the potential of some sort of possession, real deal stuff, right? Because they go through this whole process where they rule out psychological, like they don't want to have to perform an exorcism on you. If you just need counseling, they want you to do that. But if it comes to the point where it's like nothing has helped, and you're showing these true blue signs, communicating in languages that you have no way of knowing, they'll take steps. And one of the things that a bunch of them recommend is prayer and playing the Psalms, among other things. But I noticed that they took prayer as kind of like this preventative. They removed that from the actual, but they didn't just translate it incorrectly like they normally do, right? The King James is a goddamn mess. Don't read that Bible. It's very poetic and Shakespearean in terms of language.
You're not a King James guy.
Oh no! Oh heavens, no!
My favorites to read are the ones that include the discourse on the translations in the endnotes, or in the what are the notes, the citations at the bottom, like that are actually in context. What are those called? Oh shit, I can't remember.
There's commentary or footnote.
Yeah, footnotes. Yeah. Any study Bible with footnotes is really my favorite kind. Like there's the New Revised Standard has some pretty good, I would say.
Well, what's a really good version of the Bible? It's called the Parallel Bible. You've got the King James on one side, and then you've got multiple variants of translation, and in certain passages you can see like, oh, they took women out of that. They took, they didn't translate money because they didn't want anything bad said about that, and so that's really cool. And also, and I think I said this when we were on Zero, I would recommend people get a copy of it's on the internet too, so you can look it up, but it's called Strong's Greek Concordance or Strong's Greek Lexicon. And essentially that will give you just go by passage, type the passage you want, it will give you every word in the original Greek for the New Testament. And you can kind of, read it the way it was written and then make your own decision.
That's so crazy, dude. The manipulation of everything. So one thing, you have a list of talking points that you want to get into, but I'm interested in extraterrestrials and the Bible. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we kind of touched on it earlier, but I find it in like, I guess, the discourse that I'm finding, the overlap between the UFO community and like, internet occultism, I guess. There's this this overlap, this idea that like angels or gods are extraterrestrial beings. And I know that that's also really big in sort of like the conspiracy sector. And I don't mean conspiracy pejoratively, because I'm consider myself to be a well-worn conspiracy theorist. But
Bang, bro, welcome.
Yeah, but it's that to me is super interesting, because there is really convincing. I didn't want to believe it or look at it, but there's really convincing evidence of some of that stuff. But there's this kind of
they're aliens, that the gods are aliens.
Well, here's the thing, right? Particularly in Genesis, the book of Genesis, I think it's Genesis chapter 6, they mention the, like you said it earlier, Nephilim. So that word, Nephilim, it's of Semitic or Proto-Semitic origin. The root is Nephel, and that means to fall. And then the suffix im, it's a Hebrew plural. So it literally means the ones who fell. And there is this constant, the way that it's described there. And not only that, but there's an apocryphal book. Now, the Apocrypha are the books that didn't make it into, they were written around the same time, similar authors in these communities, scriptural communities, but they didn't make it into the final cut of the actual Bible. But a lot of traditions keep them as part of their scriptural heritage. So it's not like, like in Catholicism, they don't tell you don't read the Apocrypha, but that's just not what we believe in. Here's some reasons why we took it out. But there are apocryphal books in the Old Testament, the book of Enoch, the Watchers. And it goes into great detail about how these beings literally fell from the sky and taught, they wanted to, frankly, they wanted to copulate with human women. They wanted to have sex with human women.
Everybody wants to hit that ass, dog. Everybody wants to hit that ass.
Can't blame them.
Yeah,
can't blame them.
Human chicks are hot.
Yeah, but they came down and they taught us all sorts of arts and things like that. And they say that they gave birth to the giants and things like that. So, but there's also another tradition later on in that Hellenistic period. This alchemist actually was an Egyptian scribe priest who was the father of, I guess, modern alchemy. His name's Zosimus of Panopolis, and he talks about it too. He talks about, so there are multiple historical attestations to this kind of mythos that's just unavoidable. But what's really interesting to me is that there's a third hypothesis, right? And on one side, you could say, oh, well, it was definitely an angel the way we think of it, with the wings, right? Why do angels have wings? Why do they fly if they're not coming down from the sky? Why does God live in heaven, right? The Latin word caeli, that literally means the sky. And the other hypothesis is they were aliens, and it was a way of pre-modern people for describing, alien contact. But there's this third option that I think a lot of people don't necessarily consider, and it's called the interdimensional hypothesis. Oh, snap. And that's kind of the idea that these things, they're sort of extra dimensional. So they can kind of come in and out of physicality as they please. And there's a lot there that has to do with the idea of dimensions that it's too complex to get into. But there's that idea, and I recommend people look into it. And one of the things that was super convincing to me that put me onto this, I don't know if you guys are familiar. I mean, I think you are, with the Art Bell radio show, Coast to Coast.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Of course, yeah.
So get this, September 11th, 1997. Art gets a call from this guy who supposedly had this, I think it was a medical discharge from Area 51, because at that time, when it was like so like hot in the public consciousness, he had a separate call-in line that was just open to anybody who had any information about Area 51. So this guy calls and he's like hysterical. I mean, his voice is trembling. It sounds like he's crying. And he basically says, what we are thinking of as aliens are really extra-dimensional beings that a precursor of the space program made contact with. And there are going to be a series of coming disasters that they're aware of. And their goal is, the government, right, has been working with them, and their goal is to thin the herd, to depopulate the major population centers, so that the herd, the masses, are more easily controlled. We're kind of seeing that right now. But the weirdest thing, the weirdest thing about that, and I'll cap it here because I want to hear your thoughts. The weirdest thing about that entire thing is that right at that point, it like reaches this crescendo, and then dead air for 5 seconds. So it wasn't even like the guy got cut off. The channel that he was on, he got knocked off of the air for 5 seconds. And when he came back on, he had lost the call.
Oh, man.
There's like all these articles about it, about how it was, yeah, he's right. It was September 11th, 1997.
Yeah, I seem to remember this call, actually. I think this has got passed around in the
I guess he was all
early
frantic.
days of the internet.
Yeah, he was all frantic when he called in, and everyone. It
It's
sounds
right there. Let's listen to it.
Yeah, let's listen to it. Let's listen to it.
Actually, you need. Can you? Let me pull it up. Hold on. I got the audio.
Yeah.
Johnny, pull it up.
So since he's looking that up, I got a question for you. Are you a flat earther? Because Sam always talks about how people are super into like into Christianity. Sometimes they don't believe in.
Well, I want to get into that because it's super interesting to me that, you know, we've had people on here that are like, we never land on the moon, space is fake. They're super Christian, love the Bible. Then they can't get into like the firmament, and you know, but they'll believe in the Van Allen belt, you know, and it also gets into like, you know, this notion that like, oh, we'll believe in aliens, but we won't believe in angels.
I got the call when you're ready. By the way.
So hey, think about that. Let's hear this call real quick.
Should have it.
Johnny, I'll fire you right now.
How are you gonna fire? He's an
okay.
intern. Don't fire us.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I
You know, actually, I don't know if any of you guys listen to the band Tool. They're like one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
They put it as like a hidden track.
On this call.
That's surely where I've heard it. Then, yeah, that's definitely where I've heard
All right,
it.
let's hear it. Let's hear it. I love Tool.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really soon.
So you can't spend a lot of time on the phone. So give us something quick.
Okay. Okay. What we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, I'm sorry, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable. discharge. I started getting...
Yeah.
Sounds like he's being tickled.
That's what you got out of that? He's getting tickled?
Yeah. Like,
Can we tickle you to see if that's how you sound, Johnny?
it just says transmission lost now, so I assume that's going to be the end of it.
That's it.
You're probably going to hear Art come back.
I
if we
totally
wait,
agree with that. I mean, if you look at the Deagle report, they say, and I told Brian Callen this, and he got real, like, queenie with me. But he was like, I go, the Deagle report, which is like the intelligence agencies use their data. They say that in 2025, U.S. population will be around 50 mil.
They got 2 years for that. I better get on it.
Let's get out of here, dude.
Yeah, I mean, so that guest apparently after that, he called back and was like, oh, I was faking it. Listen, I can do the voice again. But it didn't convince me because that doesn't explain how his radio signal got knocked off the air for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not convinced of that.
And why would you call back? Like, what is the purpose of that? That's so weird, right?
Unless you wanted to prove Art Bell a fool or something. I mean, if that was your whole
which
goal.
we've seen that, you know, in this group as well, you know.
I don't think the government would be like, call him back and tell him you were lying.
I do. 100%.
I think they just kill you. Let's get rid of this fucking loose cannon.
No, but it's better to them if they, you know, if he calls back.
Non-linear warfare, bro. Yeah. Now,
and then they kill him. Yeah.
Now you have people going, "Did you hear that caller?" And then you have their people that don't agree with them. Yeah, he came back and said he was lying. I mean, so now nobody agrees.
Yeah. Now we're talking about it.
Yeah. Now nobody agrees with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's really interesting to me because that hypothesis, just the whole idea of the interdimensionality of these beings, it really answers the question of spiritual entity, and it answers the I guess quote unquote extraterrestrial question. But it's just very, very interesting to me, myself having experiences.
What?
You know, once
what? What'd you say? You had experiences? What'd you experience?
Like I had, so like when you first kind of, or when I first started going down the path of this kind of Gnostic path and things like that, and in the Western esoteric traditions, and you're doing, you know, different kinds of, I guess, meditative work and energy work, like you were saying earlier, Sam. For me, certain things got activated. My consciousness kind of expanded quite a bit. I became like really good at things I wasn't good at before. Like one of the things I became really, really like profoundly good at drawing for like a period of time, and I'm now still able to. I've retained the ability to sort of feel energy and to be able to see it and things like that. That's been a game changer for me in my life. But then also there was a period of kind of interaction with things, entities that I couldn't really explain, you know. And I think a lot of people have that experience, or at least in my experience, I've spoken with lots of people that, you know, have been sensitive to that kind of presence that's around us. You can call it ghosts, you can call them shadow people, you can call them whatever. We don't really know. But I think really, really young, a lot of people are sensitive to it, and it freaks you out. So you kind of push it out of you make your awareness a little bit smaller, because you can't deal with that reality a lot of times. And part of that is, you know, gaslighting yourself based on I guess common social mores, right? You like that couldn't have been real. It couldn't have been real. Yet when I allowed myself to sort of become more expansive and open to these things, that stuff came right back. You know, I was immediately sensitive to that stuff again. Now I have a little bit more of control, where it's not intruding on me anymore. If I'm out somewhere, I can just kind of section it off, you know, but but it's that is definitely a reality for me and for a lot of people I know that have come through this path. And it's not, I don't even think that, I don't recommend that to most people, because for about 6 years there, I mean, I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was going crazy. But you know, there's an element of trust that I have to give to my subjective experience in this life. That is one of the key tactics, right, of whatever you want to call them. This spiritual warfare is to get you to lose faith in the evidence of your lived experience. I'm not saying
what
that
we were just talking about on that last show, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
like what you're talking about is what most people that begin to dig deeper go through. And you know, it's like the scene out of the Matrix where Neo wakes up and it's like, what the fuck? What is this reality? And you're like, yeah, man, you can go one or two ways, however you want to do it. And if you go down this way, it could get lonely, but you feel a lot better about yourself. And more and more people go our way than go the other way. It's very hard to go back the other way and be like, no, I want to sleep and eat steak. That's what I want. It's like, doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
I mean, I still want to do that stuff, but there's this other stuff that I do too.
No,
I love steak. And
listen, I have to find brain numbing stuff to just sit there and enjoy, so I can feel like I have just a tippy toe in the pool of, you know, society, like Ink Masters, which is total like a dark arts occult shit. It's all symbolisms everywhere in that, like really dark shit. But I love tattoos and I love that, and just like I could turn my brain off for 2 seconds. But I cannot join in the confederacy of dunces that goes on with everything in television. I just can't. I can't enjoy it. I can't, like, they're ruining Godzilla for me on Apple right now.
You already gave it a shot and it's not working out?
Well, they're not doing enough monsters, and just everything is like, the only saving grace to this show is that the lippy Asian female doctor gets it at one point. You're like, yeah, okay, who's the strong woman now? Getting eaten by giant cockroaches, right? Right. But the point of that whole thing is, it's like I have to turn it off sometimes. So like we said in the last episode where Eddie Bravo is like, he blue pills his kid for a while. Let the kid enjoy the little things and then slow roll him out.
Well, he's pretty blue-pilled. I mean, everyone gives him shit for being into football, and he loves football. And even though we all know,
but he says it's like,
and he says it's the only thing that keeps him grounded. It's
Yes.
the thing that he can talk to a homie with, another American, about football, and not be just like flat Earth.
Yeah,
and he
it's
loves
like
it.
sports is the only thing where, again, that's the only thing. But they try me all the time,
So
pushing this woke bullshit on me. Like when ESPN has like fucking 4 women talking basketball, and you're like, that, where does this happen, ESPN? Where is this? I never go to Buffalo Wild Wings and watch 2 women debating who's a better running back, Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders. No, that has never happened in the history of time.
You've never been to a nail salon? They're always talking football,
Never.
over-unders, the spread. They're talking about trades. Come on, Sam.
Can I get a little picture of Travis Kelce on my nails, please?
Well, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
Right, but they never discuss that shit. It's just like, again, it goes back to getting you not to believe your eyes, your ears, or the wisdom of your experiences. And that is a magic tricks. That is, to me, that is, I don't know how deep you want to go into these black nobility and what they believe in, and the whole, you know, we've had Susan Bedford on our show before, and she went and did some deep dives at the old banking families of Babylon, went to China to try to rough them up. And China's like, we'll fuck you up and we'll show you why. And they're like, well, why? How can you do it? And then, you know, which is like Confucianism is the early stages of communism and all that stuff. You know, it's like, it's interesting, man. I love it. But the beauty of what we do is like, I see their playbooks. And that's why when I have some like Icon, I can have these conversations because I believe there's more to it. I believe there's just more to it than just one simple thought of what Christianity is. And it's like, I would love to just get in line that it's just this way, but my soul, which has got me to where I am, tells me there's more to all this, that there's a deeper understanding. to all of it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the whole book learning thing didn't happen for me until after I had these experiences. And okay, I know I've had sort of initiatic experiences with, this Christ force, and it scared the shit out of me. And but also at the same time, it really truly wiped the slate of my life clean. I was an addict for a really long time, and I was just not a great dude. And right around this time, where things were changing for me, I had this massive experience, and I've out of body experience, and it to me, I was like, okay, there's a reality to this. Okay, I'm not hallucinating this. I know that, and I know myself enough to not gaslight myself. So now let's figure out, what the fuck is this? I'm not gonna, because it's here, right? It's a shitty analogy, but I'll say it anyway. If somebody taught you the rules of baseball completely incorrectly so that they could fucking win every time, well, you wouldn't walk off the field and say there's no such thing as baseball. No, you'd go and try and learn the fucking rules. You try and figure out what this thing is. Don't be lazy. You have to dig, but also part of that is allowing yourself to be guided. And a lot of this information I came to, I actually wasn't looking for. It appeared in my life in this kind of synchronistic way that was just like, bright red arrows pointing over here, over here. And even what I do now is a product of that. I'm not like portraying myself as some like mysterious rock star. I'm just me, and I'm trying to share my experiences with people because I feel that I am called to do that, and it's got some upsides because I get to meet people like you. I get to talk with people like you and hopefully encourage dialogue of this kind in a wider sphere. But a lot of it is really fucking hard. A lot of it is extremely difficult balancing this with, my other life and trying to preserve some semblance of distance between me and strangers. That's a really interesting thing on the internet. It's like you are just you're available to people, and
yeah, dude,
it's tough.
Listen. Who is the shit talking comic? What's his name? Don.
Which one?
He really talked a lot of shit on everybody. You remember towards the end, he was like the roasting king. What was his Don? I forget.
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles. Mr. One.
Don Rickles made one joke about Frank Sinatra being a mobster. Frank Sinatra sent literal mobsters to go beat his ass. Like, that was like the most simple of trolling. And look at, he never had to deal with what we had to deal with. And like Johnny and I were just talking about this, like suddenly there's just been this giant uptick of bots again on Twitter out of nowhere, telling you negative shit. All of that is dark arts magic, bro. It's dark arts magic. It's mental manipulation. It's manifestation. It's soul sucking. It's energy vampire soul sucking done on purpose to manifest a certain type. There are people in LA that only have careers because they got astroturfed on Twitter into people thinking they actually had a following when it was just bots pushing a narrative. And they have 6-figure gigs in LA. Because bots decided their narrative was the narrative that wanted to get pushed. And if taken it all away, they couldn't get 3 likes on their fucking, on their tweets. But now they're getting 20,000. Like some guy's like, me pee pee poo poo, 20,000 likes. You're like, what is that like? How do you get that many likes on me pee pee poo poo? I don't get it. But it's because it was astroturfing cultural Marxism, giving the illusion that cancel culture was real, that it was powerful, that this small group of blue-haired idiots actually were very vast and powerful, when in reality, they were just being used by corporations to control hate speech. And we can get into the history of hate speech. If you go far enough back, it's some very dark art stuff in the Abrahamic religion. To err, have no rights. And you can get into all that. That's another conversation, another day. But all that stuff is real, man. We are in a spiritual war. They are trying to get people away from God. That's the whole thing. That's what they're doing. They're pushing women not to want to have kids. They're pushing men into being super feminists, and it's just like, and then you're taking jobs away from men. I mean, dude, look at what it's done to dating. Their evil plan is so diabolical, it's working. Give women jobs. Women now can make more money than men. Because all the jobs that men used to do, which is building and constructing and fixing cars, and all, that's all going away. Computers are taking that over. Robots are taking those things over. Men will have no manual labor jobs left. Women will all move in to office jobs, which is nesting, which is what women used to do in the home. You would come home and she would have a whole nested system set up for the family. That's now leaving the house and going to the office space, and they are wired better to work in there. Now they're making more money, and it's something like, it's called taller. Women are taller now. It's some crazy ass thing.
What?
It's like this weird term that they've been talking about in dating, where women are now
considered more. They're worth more than the men.
They're like taller than, and they're like in this weird kind of. I forget what financially.
You know what I really hope is that the evil, the Satanists win, and that we have to go back to like hunter gatherer. Let's just see how tall they are.
Oh, dude.
When
Johnny will suddenly be the leader. Foul Johnny. I don't know anything. Can I podcast? Can I yell in this forest and someone will listen? No,
but like you got to think about it. A man gets a job. A man has a job so he can take care of a woman. A woman gets a job so she doesn't have to have a man. That's like the whole opposite thing of like we literally 100%. We have a job to have a woman. Like I'm gonna get this job so I get laid.
Well, that is our. It's like Chris Rock says, women and children have unconditional love. Men must provide worth.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Ike?
Well, I don't think that we'll end up going back to like a hunter-gatherer civilization.
No,
I think what'll happen, if anything, is that we're going to. It seems to me that the motivation for being or doing anything nowadays is largely driven by some kind of misguided spite, and it's led us into taking on these roles that are like fundamentally oppressive to our being, and we were like cutting our nose to spite our face in a lot of ways, like like you're saying, it's this kind of inversion of roles, but a lot of it was very oppressive for dudes for a really long time. I mean, I just know growing up, it's like anytime I was in a room with other men, it was unless I guess we were like bonded in like a sports kind of situation. I played sports growing up, but other than that, there was a lot of competition. It's like, it's not, especially out in like the working world, people are not friendly. I mean, I also grew up in New York, so that could be a thing. Nobody's friendly in New York, but it's. I think if anything, we're going to end up stuck in these reversed roles, thinking that this is the way things are. This is the way that society is, right? And it's not only going to be to the point where we're so divided we can't get along with each other, we resent each other, we hate each other, we hate our roles in life, but it's like now we cannot get out of it because this is just the way things are at a certain point, in society. I mean, how did they get people to set the table for this catastrophe, right? This actually didn't happen overnight. It feels like it did because everything's gone topsy-turvy in the last like 6-7 years. But if you look back, the state of mind that has been cultivated, the perceptual interface that is literally installed onto us almost from birth, that set the table for this to happen once they hit a button. Once they flipped the switch, the stage was set. So how did that happen? It's because at a certain point with humans, there's this critical mass, and that is essentially a point of no return. When things become so widely accepted that there is no turning of the tide, it has to sort of play out. Now the way out is the way through. And I think that that's ultimately what has to happen, unfortunately. That's my opinion, and I pray to God that I'm wrong.
Well, I think that there, you wanted to mention the occult. We didn't get into that much, but because I think the cult is just hidden knowledge, right? That's really what it is. And there is dark energy, whatever you want to call that. Again, you want to have an argument about whether God exists? Do you believe that there are secret societies that believe in dark energy or worship darkness? If you believe that, and you have to be a real idiot not to believe that, and there are real idiots out there, but if you believe that there's people who worship darkness, then there must be the counter to that, the yin and the yang, which is goodness, right?
Yep.
That's just the way it is.
Yes.
Or they wouldn't be worshiping it. It would just be the way it is. But
it's kind of reminds me of this rationale that scientists give for the locations of black holes. They can observe black holes only by their effect on the things around them, and then that's very whether you believe that or not is one thing, but it's very much kind of what you're describing. You can observe the present. You can infer the presence of light by the presence of darkness, and
listen,
I think you're right. Yeah.
All the biggest argument for God.
There's a passage in the Bible that says, "By their fruits shall you know them."
Yeah, there it is.
That's exactly.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at 9/11, all the occult symbolism, numerology to Aleister Crowley is right there. It's right there. And if you know that exists, that they are playing to a thelemic belief, if you know that means there must be the counter, the yin to the yang of that, the duality.
What's super interesting about that is that Crowley actually came up in an organization that was supposed to be promoting and promulgating the light, and he went through it in such a fashion during a time of relative strife within that society in the early 1900s in London and in Paris, called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. The other members didn't want him in the temple. They didn't want him to advance in this order. And he was put through what normally in this sort of right? It's a system of initiation, and it's an alchemical initiation, a spiritual alchemy that's supposed to transform you. And typically there's this period where it takes between 3 and 5 years, really. He was put through it in under a year, just under a year. And he emerged from that entire situation extremely disillusioned. And we have in his diaries, in his notebooks, he felt not only disillusionment, but resentment toward his teachers and towards the people in that order that were literally trying to do exactly what we're talking about, this kind of esoteric Christian rectification within a spiritual warfare. And Crowley essentially made it his mission afterwards to invert all of that stuff. That's the thing with symbolism. Symbolism is not bad. Symbolism is the quickest way to learn anything because it operates on the part of the psyche that is pre-verbal, right? Before you learn to speak, you learn to communicate in images. Letters are symbols for sounds. Words are symbols for, the written word is a symbol for the spoken word, which is a symbol for the thing. So we're always operating on a level of symbolic communication, but it's about what that symbol is. And the dark occultists will they'll take a symbol and they will invert it.
Yes.
When they want to invoke the opposite power. Yes. And they can invoke it just as much strength if they use the symbol. It just has to be inverted. And essentially, Crowley took the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and he inverted the entire fucking thing. And that's his system.
I will fight.
And that's unfortunately through like these rock and roll occultists. That's what people get as the occult. They get Crowley and like LaVey Satanism. When meantime, there's this whole incredible movement of people that were trying to sort of foster this esoteric Christian Renaissance, spiritual Renaissance, and he was just the louder, more provocative guy.
Yeah, I have this theory that he was a rich nerd dork kid and that all of his friends went on to do great stuff, and it was easy for him because he was provocative to get his word out. That's what I really do. I mean, like, it's crazy the people that he was close to. His maid was a victim of the serial killer, what's his name? The famous one that nobody understood back in the day, Jack the Ripper. You know, just all this crazy shit that goes on. And it's just a bunch of nerd dork shit. I think all these Satanists are just fucking beta cuck Dungeons and Dragons guys who just want to fuck fat goth chicks, and they're just trying to impress them with their cool shit. And they're just like dorks. And I just find them dorks. I put my name on it. And it's just like, but they are manifesting dark energy. That's all I could say. There's dark energy to it. Moloch, Baal, all these motherfuckers are just shady ass bitches. So that's my opinion. I love this episode. I could talk to you all the time, every time door is open. I enjoy these. Listen, maybe you don't necessarily always agree with everything that everybody says, but this has been an illuminating discussion. I know some people aren't into Gnosticism. All are welcome. And I would like to, maybe you get a piece of the puzzle that clicks for you. That's what this show's about for me. All are welcome. We want to have a discussion. As long as you're not coming on here with quote unquote hate speech, which even to that term's starting to annoy the fuck out of me. Because who decides what is hate speech? If you want to have a real discussion about any group and the crazies within that group, you're welcome on my show. That's it. We'll do it. So one more time, Mike, tell them where they can find you.
IkeBaker.com, IKEBAKER. And that's got links to the YouTube, the podcast, etc. It's all in one spot. I appreciate you so much, Sam. I think that you're definitely just a voice of open discussion and a forum for ideas. I think that's super important because that space is getting darker, dimmer, smaller. I appreciate you tremendously. And, just thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for what you do.
Well, I appreciate you, Ike, coming on. All of Ike Baker's links are below in the description. Again, final week of Chaos Twins. I'm going to be honest with you. I'd like to extend it a little longer, see if how deep we can go with this. A lot of people are excited about this. I know I am. My heart and soul is pure in terms of trying to make this the best. I'm not looking to make $1 off this initial, turn that off. I'm not off the initial, investment. I'm just going to pour it all into the project. That's all I want to do is see if we can create something amazing, which all your favorites voices will be in it. I'm going to try, I always think big and then we see where it actually
heard what the big is. If the big happens,
I'm going to try.
It will blow your guys' mind.
I'm going to try, but we'll see what goes, man. And this is super indie. I don't know how people make animations without corporate money. We're going to try to do the best we can. And we'll see how it works out. And that's it, man. Chaos Twins, man. Go to chaostwins.com. Follow, love. $1. If you listen to this, you give $1. If everyone gave $1 by the end of this week, we could do multiple animations. That's my goal. But again, I just we made the book. I'd like to make a couple episodes of the book, slow roll it out, and then get the animation going. So go to SamTripoli.com, click the link, go to chaostwins.com, check out SamTripoli for all the dates. All right, we're just going to stay here, guys, and do a little discussion about what we listened to, break it down, a little post-show review. Guys, what'd you think of the show with Ike Baker?
Went deep.
Yeah, I can relate. He's going to get some stuff.
He's going to get some shit
from people who have this view that I can relate to. I had it when I was younger, that the Bible is the literal word of God, and any kind of interpretation of it or any changes that that someone's making in those interpretations is somehow like sacrilegious. He's gonna get from those people who believe that way. But no, I just think someone once told me this, and I can't remember who, and it's kind of trite. It's kind of like an AA sort of saying, but there's room in the church is what they said. But there's room in faith for your head and your heart. You know what I mean? You can bring both in the doorway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I believe that. You know, if you don't have to turn off your brain. You know, we've heard people kind of suggest that, but I don't think you have to turn off your brain to believe in these things.
Well, I mean, like, here's the whole thing. Why don't you take what he says, write it down, and research it?
Try it. Yeah, that's in the Bible,
My
dude.
whole thing
Try all
is
things.
this, guys, and this is all I will ever say. And, like, I don't mind if people come at me and challenge what I say. You know, if you're going to bring me some CBS bullshit, you know, link, you know, where they just have, you know, Pizzagate, not real. I'm like, I know it's real. I'm not going to look into that. But I mean, like, I'm open-minded to it all. I mean, like, part of my recovery from drugs and alcohol is an understanding that, like, sometimes I'm wrong, and when I'm wrong, I have to admit it. So again, if your idea is powerful enough, it should be able to withstand criticism and discussion.
That's it.
And everything. And that's all. And for me, man, I do not want to live in a place where you only hear what you want to hear. Like, I think that makes us different than everybody else. So I saw this, the Man on Street interview, right? And she was this guy, I think he was Indian, or no, he's a white guy interviewing a very thin black lesbian walking dogs, right? So he goes, how is there, you know, multiple genders? And her whole answer was, you don't know what you're talking about because you're not queer. And he goes, how does that affect me? And she starts going off on this shit. Out of nowhere, this, like, another black lesbian with a Mr. T haircut, mohawk.
No, you're in trouble. He's in trouble.
No, goes to the other lesbian. Hey, you don't know what you're talking about because if you went into surgery right now, you're either a male or you're a female. That's how they deal with you. And you know what the other lesbian did? Walked off because she didn't want to have her ideas challenged because she knows they can't stand criticism.
And she didn't have the race trump card or the sex, you know, the queer thing on that person because, you know,
that's why they hate black conservatives so much because they can't use any of the race card shit.
I mean, he saw him. It's my first time ever seeing Ty Rivera do stand up. He goes hard on the gays because he's gay. He's allowed to say what the fuck he wants. He's up there saying the F word here, left, right, don't be a faggot. And you're there from LA, you're like, what the fuck's going on? But I didn't know he was gay for a second. And then when Nike got off, I was like,
how'd you not know Ty Rivera was gay?
He has face tats. I didn't give it away to me. Like, I'd never met him. I had just seen him on stage, and I was like, bro, you just allowed to act like this in Austin? And then I figured out he was gay. But like that, like Johnny said, you can't say nothing because he is that thing you're gonna bitch about.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way that Stern was gonna do what was it called, Mama Lick a Boo Boo Day or whatever without Robin there. You know?
Oh
what
yeah,
I mean?
for
It was
sure.
like his,
but isn't that funny that there's so many rules to political correctness? It's hard to take it serious.
You can't take it seriously.
Like if you go, oh man, you can't say that, but somebody else can. Why? We're saying the same statement.
Yeah.
And it's
crazy.
really just to make white women comfortable
And
with
you're
who
right
they
about
are.
the ideas thing too. You're right. Yeah.
Right? That's all it is.
Yeah.
Because white women, you know, white women hate more than sexism, racism, homophobia is being called sexist, racist, or homophobic. That trumps everything. That's why they won't challenge anybody, and they have these stupid rules where I like it where you can make fun of your own thing. Nope.
They have like anxiety dreams about it,
It's
being
just
called a racist.
ridiculous and it's stupid.
I don't know if you've heard, but like they consider Karen a racial slur now.
Well,
and then I'm like,
well, it's
racial?
like the
What
word
do you mean
cunt.
racial? Like-
It's like the word cunt.
'Cause
They
only
just
white people?
made it into a word because it's got a hard C. Jason Rouse's joke. It's not a real slur. The real slur is wench, and women don't get mad at wench. But if you study history, wenches were like cunts covered in shit set on fire. Bro.
You're right about the idea, though, that we should have diverse ideas around us. That's true because you become like a fighter who only fights tomato cans, and then if you end up in a real situation where you need to defend your ideas, you're not in shape for it. You know what I mean?
Like
So
if you
I
come on
believe
this
that.
show going, these people do that, I'm not. I don't want you on because I just think it's
Too
like
easy.
it's too low hanging fruit. And it's just like I saw them do it with white people. I know a million white people that are powerless and are in the same bullshit you're into. So if I see them doing it with that, I know it's everybody. Groups born into groups aren't the problem. It's the weaponized small extremists of the group that are the problem, and you call them out for that shit. Okay, black people aren't the problem. BLM is a Marxist organization. Women being equal isn't the problem. Fourth wave feminism is a problem.
Anyway, we'll get back to this and wrapping up in a second. You want to run through the
website?
The website real quick.
Well, you know, you can get all my videos. Go down. We got some brand new T-shirts for you. Don't go to Chaos Twins. We talked about that, but go down to my T-shirts because we got some great T-shirts for you.
Yeah, there are a lot of cool ones on there right now. Man.
Look at that. We got the. We still got to do the. Yeah. So we got the Christmas sweatshirt. Sweater, which is me as a shroom Santa, which I love.
Dude, this is the best to show up to your family.
Yeah,
family
show
Christmas
up with that,
dinner,
tripping balls.
They're gonna know exactly.
Doing shrooms. Then we got Yahweh or the Highway. I love this shirt. I need to get it. Daniel's like, what is that shirt? Don't worry about it. It's above your pay grade. Where's the list? I love that shirt. I love Where's the List.
Where's the list? No question marks at the end of that. That's my only issue. It's a bunch of exclamations.
Oh,
no
should I
question
change to tell him to change
I would
that?
have one question mark and then two exclamations.
And also, I gotta get the Scooby-Doo van up. So that's the Texas 2023 shirts. You can get that if you weren't at the live shows because you had a sick kid or something like that. No, and then the beanies here. The beanies are here. Bang, bang, pow.
Get them. $20. Get them. $20 for listening to them. They're cheap.
Get them.
Get them. Everything's $20.
20 bucks.
That's like stealing.
Yeah, and then just like, dude, Chaos Twins. Dude, I'm sorry, but I do so much premium content. I'm giving you 3 episodes a week unless I have some family emergency. I'll give you 3 episodes a week. I'm giving you just in tinfoil hat. That doesn't include Conspiracy Social Club and Zero, okay? And then Cash Daddies is crushing it. Check out those things, dude. Check those out. And then our affiliates, man. Wise Wolf, Gold and Silver. I buy gold and silver from them every month. Hydrogen Brown Gas. Everybody loves it. Harley Ray. I mean, dude, crystals. You need crystals. I have crystals. She just sent me a sweet package. I love their crystals. I love their candles. It's a great thing, man. Check them out. And then finally, dude, I use two of my affiliates I use every day. Chemical Free Body and Joel Staley's workout.
He's not lying. He travels with this stuff.
Yeah, and dude, I've been going to the gym 3 days a week to lift weights, and I take Chemical Free Bodies supplements every day. I take them every day. I love them. They're great. I do them every day.
It's all on the website. Just scroll
down. It's all
down.
on the website. Go to SamTripoli.com. Click all that. Joel Staley's helped me work out, trying to get rid of my bitch tits. I like going to the gym so I can just bitch about how hot the women are dressed. Why are they dressed like that? It's just rude, making me stare at them.
Dude, I can't wait till you're part of some like OnlyFans gym chick and you're in the background working out.
That's gonna be
and someone sends a video of look, Sam's back there, and the girls just
look at this guy tucking his boner into his jockstrap. You know?
Let's go down. Anything else? All of my telegrams are there. All the zeros are there. All my thing. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing all these podcasts, but enjoy them while they last. We'll see who makes it through the week. And then you can watch my...
What's up with their special? You recording that soon?
Yeah, it's February 3rd or 4th.
Oh, that's
What's
soon.
the venue?
Yeah.
I'm working on that right now.
It's going to be private? Do some people gonna fly in?
There's only going to be about 400 tickets available.
You heard that.
Total.
Buy that ticket. Flight
all right, guys. Anything else?
Broken Sim, we've been killing it on Broken Sim. The numbers have been good, and the numbers were bad on Thanksgiving week. They picked back up on Monday and Tuesday.
I'm telling you, dude. Broken Sim is the show I do to keep normal, and just everything on there we talk about is in real life.
That's the one where you listen, where you hear about Sam and his jiu-jitsu and the Fight Club. Like what?
Yeah.
People have been asking me, hey, you guys gonna talk about Austin? We talk about Austin. I'm like, trust me, go to Broken Sim. He goes deep down to Austin.
Great. Where Xavier got busted looking
That
at
was
tits.
so funny. I finally saw that on Instagram.
Zach
That was
Morris told me
great.
that. It's like, and then he got XC creeping. I go, what? He goes, look at the picture. I look down. There's a fucking brunette with a fat rack, and he's just staring at it.
While people are fighting for their lives, I'm like, tits.
So funny, man.
All right, guys, enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
So here's another thing, Johnny. And this like is both hilarious and scary at the same time.
Oh, okay.
And
Sounds like what, like a Scream 2, something like that?
it's kind of interesting because it's a sign of how good the show's doing.
Dawn of the Dead.
No, I just sent you this, and it's hilarious. This dumb bitch.
This is another shit posting?
Yeah, another
Okay.
another
Wow.
shit
Well, we've had
post.
a big week.
We had a big week of shit post. So I had that guy Austin Picard on. Austin Picard had
Yeah.
the first time he did it, a podcast interview was on our show. Like a
That's
Zoom,
crazy, yeah.
Like you go right to like the big leagues, right?
Yeah.
Like
crazy.
we're not the biggest conspiracy show, but we're one of the well-known ones. Okay. So I have this guy on. He brings up some stuff about Jonestown. So I go, hey, come on my premium content. Let's talk about Jonestown.
Wait. Austin Picard.
Yes.
After Tinfoil, you had him on?
Yeah, I had him come do my premium content.
So after we did Tinfoil,
Yeah.
you had him. Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah, he came on Only Conspiracies.
Got it.
And I interviewed him.
You have so many fucking podcasts. Dude. It's crazy.
Well, they're all one podcast. I just want people to know what they're getting into. It's like
I get it.
subsets,
Yeah.
right?
You work a lot, is what I'm saying.
So I have so he comes on and he says something which is astounding, which is that Ray, the guy who was blamed for assassinating MLK. He says that
James Earl Ray. Yeah.
James Earl Ray. He says that his wife was in Jonestown. Well, this woman has a visceral reaction to this.
What woman?
This woman up. If that's even a B. Schofield.
Yeah, B. Schofield. B.E.
Now click on her thing. What's very interesting about her.
A real person?
Yeah, just click on her. I mean, I don't know, but that's her face.
I would bet that's not a real person.
Yeah, I don't think it is. But look at all of her mentioned in. She's mentioned in all these things. So
maybe it is a real person.
Right?
Okay.
Author of Hunting Lucifer on Amazon.
Oh, I love Hunting Lucifer.
Yeah. She's the author of it.
I'm joking. I've never heard.
Oh, okay. So anyways, she has 794 followers, which you don't think is important. And
No, I mean, that's a good
so
number
she
for an
starts
author.
going off
Oh, there's her mom.
on she starts going off on that he got that wrong. Okay? He got it wrong.
Sorry.
Okay?
Oh, wait. Let me see now. Wait. Okay. So I need to go back to that then. So B. Schofield is in here saying,
Yeah, so go up.
Sam Tripoli and his guest Austin Picard claimed the government killed Jonestown members. They pushed a bunch of bizarre and wildly false ideas that are easily debunked.
But when you get into what she's talking about, she
great.
keeps bringing up.
This is great.
Well,
I
it's a
love it.
sign.
Yeah.
It's a sign.
It is.
And it is a sign that the show is big.
You were happy when you saw us too, weren't you?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of everything because that means more of this will be coming.
I like it.
Right?
I like
So go down. So
Good.
go down. So keep going.
Wait, can I ask you why did she tag the art? Is that the art guy?
Yeah, that's the guy. That's Austin Picard.
Oh, okay.
Because he's the one who made the statement.
No, I thought that was somebody else.
Debunked then. And did you read my article? Nobody cared. I thoroughly debunked most of Austin's claims. Now, but she only brings up they kept saying like, oh, his wife was down there. It turns out his wife wasn't, and she was actually the court sketch for one of his trials, okay? And in helicopters and star members should inspire a bit of pushback from the host. No,
she doesn't understand the show, obviously.
and that's what I'm saying. No. The show is meant for you this hour. We're going to let you say what you have to say. And then the listeners or the non-listeners, okay?
decide for themselves.
Decide for themselves. That is the show.
We report, you decide.
Yes. And this is it. And you brought up Bishop Larry Gators. That's why he's no longer on the show, because he talked about how Trump was still in charge, which there are people believe that based on all this crazy shit. But we let him say it.
Yeah.
Because Bishop Larry Gators would be like, I need to come on the show. We're like, okay. Who else do we have that with? Shiva. Shiva said some stuff. I push back on it. It's the very few times I do that because you're attacking personal friends of mine. But we allow, like when Shiva's like, I invented email, he gets pushed back on the show all the time by the listeners.
Shiva, who through third parties has tried to get back on the show.
There is no way she can prove that Green Berets didn't do that. There's no way. It's impossible. It's impossible. There's no way for you to go for sure that that scenario did not happen, because we've seen that before. Okay?
Yeah, she just doesn't get the show. I can tell from reading here. She's like, oh, you.
It's so weird because if you look at her face, she's like, which, you know. Yeah, and she's just getting killed.
Now this is where she proves that she's a fucking dipshit
yeah.
right here, because she goes, if you have a KKK member on your show and are giving him space to spout his beliefs uncritically, that is a problem. There's a big fucking difference between having a fucking KKK member on the show and having a guy talking about Jonestown.
And
I mean, if you don't understand that, you're an idiot.
Johnny, we've taken down 2 shows because
they crossed the line.
Yeah. All right. And maybe in hindsight, I wish we might not have, but at the time,
that was the right thing.
At the time, they were wrong. It was wrong. Now, today, I think things are a little different and people are talking about things more. But she's told, like, why would I have a KKK guy on my show? That's just like, that is such a straw man argument.
Yeah, false equivalency. Yeah, it's just like,
it's such a straw man argument.
So stupid.
So she starts going off on this guy. And I go, even if he's wrong, a site that has exposed the most evil cults in the world. There's a brand new HBO series I discovered called Love Has Won. Check it out. It's like, get the fuck. Also, check out Netflix episode Unwell series about, called Exposed. Oh, so this is what she does. This is what she does. And like, his narrative destroys what she does.
I should probably stop bragging.
Will you go nice strong? Will you go up to the KKK thing and go nice strong man argument?
Yeah, I want to type more than that.
Okay, but it's just
I'm gonna type more than that.
Okay,
later.
I'm gonna let me go find her. But the whole point is that I wouldn't have a KKK guy on.
No, I mean if you don't get the difference between platforming a KKK guy and having someone on to kind of just share their ideas about what happened in Jonestown, and
it's so fucking ridiculous. And the reason she gets upset with that, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
and is she talking about now? What is she? The thing that you put out that she's debunking, it was the premium thing?
Yeah. But
so how did she even get to that?
She didn't, because she said she wouldn't spend $15 on it.
How did she find out anything about it then?
Because Soundwave, the guy who clips my premium content, put out a part of that interview.
Okay. Interesting. Not even the main
and
show.
they was so excited because everybody was looking at that. It got like 300 views, and he was like super excited about it. And they was tagging, hey, watch it, which I'm fine with. And I don't even care. The point of the show is question everything.
Yeah, question everything, especially the stuff that we're showing you right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's just stupid. But
if you don't, this is what this is, though. This is this idea that they have in some, maybe especially on the left, but everywhere in some quantity. This idea that just someone sharing an idea is the same as
violence.
It's like, I mean, it's just not.
It's so fucking stupid.
I mean, imagine getting that pissed off over that you would write a whole article about it.
Well, yeah, it's just,
and it's clearly her trying to glom onto your audience.
Yeah, and be like, check out my stuff. I debunk. Hey, listen, she could have just been like, hey, man, can I come on your show? I debunk cults. Yeah, come on the show.
Absolutely, right up our alley. Yeah.
Come on the fucking show.
Yeah, and enjoy that we don't ask you a million questions trying to shoot down your shit. Fact check you in real time.
It's like from the day one, I remember I was like, I want to do a conspiracy show. I should get on Eddie Bravo. I go, Eddie, you want to come on? And I go, you know what? I'm just going to let him talk.
Was he the first guest?
He was guest number 1.
That's great.
And I go, I'm just going to let him talk. And he just talked. And he was like, that was great. Because usually he's just getting fucking, at the time, everybody was no.
Was
and
it
now,
tinfoil hat that was it tinfoil hat
yeah,
number 1?
because you remember, I go, hey, welcome to tinfoil hat. Well, you might not remember this, but I go, welcome, December, I think 13th or 16th is, I believe, the 8th year anniversary of tinfoil hat.
We gotta do a.
Can you look up tinfoil hat?
Yeah, I'm doing it. Right
Episode 1.
Just going all the
Over
way
7
back
years ago. I wanted a date. What's the date? December 13th,
What year? 2017.
2016.
2016. So you started tinfoil hat before I was out here. Oh, I didn't know that.
I guess 2016.
You start. That's like 3 months. That's 2 months. I came out here in early February 2017.
So you know what's cool? My sobriety day is December 9th, and the first ever tinfoil hat.
That's cool.
Is December 13th, 2016, which makes that show what, 7 years old?
How long was it before it really started hitting? Would you say?
I say it came pretty quick.
Like, did you hit like 50,000 downloads?
Yeah,
like,
very fast.
Really? That's
and
crazy.
I was really amazed by it too, because I couldn't get anyone to listen to the Naughty Show. Nobody. I couldn't get more than 5,000 people.
Isn't that crazy? You would have been happy with 10,000 back then, and now it's like.
Well, I'll tell you why I wasn't, because all my friends were getting over 100,000 at the time, and I was just like, "What the fuck am I doing?"
A lot of them aren't anymore, too. You know that, like a lot of podcasts aren't getting those kind of numbers
Really?
anymore in comedy. Yeah, they're not. Yeah. I've heard a few of them talk about it, and they're like guys that used to have pretty big shows that are just struggling to get like 70, 80, something like that.
I think that there's a big, well, you know, when you see Whitney Cummings talking conspiracies, you know my work here is done.
Yeah.
But the beauty is that our show is so deep. It's not, you know, again, our show is the training wheels for beginners to come on and listen. Even if it's a complex thing, we do it in a digestible way.
Yeah.
Then you go on, you listen to like
Put your floaties on.
Grind America guys, Greg Carl Woods and all those guys, and you know, Adam Curry's awesome show. I don't listen to that enough. I listen to one episode. So fucking good. So
But speaking of Adam Curry, by the way, he got in a thread with us on Twitter about somebody was complaining, and we do. So we've had some vaccine ads run, especially at the end of the show where we have a lot of the ads run. And this is something we've been fighting the host about a lot. But it turns out what we found out is that they keep changing. We can like block certain categories, and we've blocked those health categories, like pharma categories. What they're doing is changing the category they list the vaccine ads under so that they can get them through. Isn't that crazy? So some guy in like Quebec or something was getting ads from the Quebec government for the shot. And what we found is they started putting them in the fitness category.
Yeah, so now we can't get like Bowflex.
Right, exactly.
But I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so I sent them another email, and they banned that category too for us. Hopefully, if you get them though, please tweet at me. But yeah, Adam Curry got in a thing like saying that. So yeah, I don't think he knew that he was talking about your podcast. But somebody,
he said nice things about the podcast.
But
on
he
his
was
show.
like, somebody is sold out. Whatever podcast it is, has sold you out. And I was like, no, it's
It's
there's
not.
a very reasonable explanation for what happened.
I get that there's people that are really against ads, and I'm sorry.
I mean, if you want us to keep doing this,
If you love everybody on the show,
yeah.
if you love everybody on the show,
Want us to eat.
Even all the way down. If you love my website, if you love this studio, if you love all the people on it, if you guys have now gone and listened to Mark's show, if you love all those people, dude,
couldn't afford to be here without.
They couldn't afford to be here. I love the family that works on the show. It is a community that works together to keep the train on the tracks. It will always be that.
Barely sometimes, but yeah.
Barely. But it's always will be that. The show, I just wish people understood that like with Austin, right? Like I saw he hit me up, hey man, I'd love to talk to you about Ruby Ridge. he wasn't even talking about Jonestown. He said something interesting about Jonestown. I brought him on and we had a conversation about it. And even there was a guy in the thing was like, I listened to his episode on Jonestown. He goes way deeper. This was a short interview. That's it. I mean, it's like, it's meant to, she could have been way more constructive. But it's like this kind of like clout chasing bullshit, which is like it's all rap battles.
Debunk energy is what I call it.
Yeah, it's all rap battles, and that's it. And like, dude, if I'm wrong, tell me in a way that is like civil.
Yeah, like, hey, you may be interested, and actually, this is what happened.
Hey, his wife was actually here. Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
You.
Tell Austin that.
I mean, it's not like people don't want to get things wrong.
But the rest of it, like she's going off like, oh, no, helicopters, that never happened. You don't know that.
Not possible, yeah.
Not possible.
And I'm not a fan of using that as you weren't there, so you can't possibly know what happened in history. I'm not a fan of that kind of argument. But in this case, it's totally applicable because there's just not enough, about that. There are no good sources for that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And listen, the only reason that you go, that's possible, is because we've done enough stories where that has happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the most outlandish. It's like fish people came up and choked everybody out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's like, am I talking about Jonestown? Am I talking about Ruby Ridge or Waco or any of that fucking shit?
And now, a highlight from Cash Daddies. Well, you know what else is soaring is Bitcoin. It's over 42. Right now, 42.1 right now, which is just I kept getting these alerts that it was popping, on my phone.
Didn't we think buy that 2 months ago, Johnny?
Oh, we've been saying buy that for a year or more. Ever since I got on the show, I'm like, I'm just stocking up slowly on Bitcoin, adding it.
Yeah.
And, I think my average price on Bitcoin is like 15. Honestly, I just loaded up when it was way down there. And now, you have some very respected people in the space, and I think this is a little extreme, but talking about before the halving coming up next year, $100,000 Bitcoin, which is
I am so pissed. I have 7 of these, and I can't get them back.
Yeah, you're just gonna get cash, and you're gonna get cash. At the time, it was they went bankrupt. Probably the cash value at the time the company went bankrupt.
And what is it? What was it?
Well, it was in the teens, right? Wasn't it?
Dude, I just never catch a break. It's impossible. No matter how good the deeds I do, I just get effed in my B, okay, all the time.
You got the wonderful project, and it seems like it's going to be a great success right now with the Chaos Twin, Sam, don't you?
Yep, we hit our 30,000 goal. We raised
30,000. Wow, man, that's amazing.
We only wanted 35, and it just went to 30. Over awesome. 30. It's still people are still donating, which is such a blessing.
Awesome.
And yeah, we're at 30,000, almost 700.
Well, is that still going to stay up? You weren't sure the other day if you were.
No, they have a system where if people still want to donate, they can still do it. So this should ensure that we get our at least one animation done.
That's
I just
awesome.
got to figure out how to do this and all that stuff.
Is that pretty exciting for you to be putting something out in the world? You're kind of
I am very excited, dude. I am very excited.
You're a connoisseur of those things now. I know you've talked a lot about kids.
Well, the whole thing now is like shoot these things, get these things done, and then go on a tour doing stand-up at night, book signings during the day.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah, okay. I can see that.
I find a local comedy book place, see if they'll let me do a signing there, see where we go.
Right on, brother. Right on.
Are you gonna sign it in crayon or
yes, that's what I'm gonna do.
That's smart, Howie. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna sign in crayon.
You know what else is
around?
Yeah.
You know what else is popping is gold. Gold tops its record high at 2,100 per ounce.
Daddy
Howie,
just hanging and banging.
What's the deal with gold? Why is gold so high right now?
It's weird. Gold's up. Gold's hitting all-time highs because, we have high interest rates right now. And usually that's the case. When you have inflation, gold goes up. Is it going to keep going up? The guys I talk to, my buddies on Wall Street, they think it is.
Really?
They think gold may have another 5-10% upside. They think it's just breaking out. It'll go up before it comes back. But like I always say you should have 5-10% gold in your portfolio.
If you didn't have any though right now and you wanted to put that 5% in, would you do it at this price or would you probably just wait until it?
I'd probably wait. I would wait, and then buy some ETFs, buy GLD. I mean, GLD's up to 187 right now, and October 3rd it was 170. So it's jumped up like everything else quickly, fast. It's a little weird because you see gold and Bitcoin going up at like the same rate, which it's a little odd because Bitcoin was also always supposed to be like the hedge. And it doesn't make sense. They're going in the same direction.
Gold is kind of a hedge too, though, right? I mean,
it is, sure. Yeah. You want to go hedge against the market, and it's weird now because look, the NASDAQ, the Dow, the last 30 days, these things have just skied up along with gold. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, so, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the market's going up too. It's strange.
Yeah, the QQQ, which is basically the NASDAQ's gone from 366 up to 386. We bought puts on the triple Qs. We bought SQQQ, which is basically shorting the NASDAQ. And in the last week, it started to retract. It's coming back some. The NASDAQ over the past week, it's gone from 14,300. Today it's finished at 14,185. Hopefully we sell off more tomorrow. So I think we're going to get a little bit of a correction. We just went up too fast.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind. Tinfoil hat, tinfoil hat, tinfoil.